Hello, welcome once again to this online session in the subject of signals and systems. Currently, we are discussing classification of signals, and in the last session, we discussed periodic and aperiodic signals, and we had also discussed few examples based on it. In this session, we would continue with the discussion and discuss few more interesting examples related to aperiodic and periodic signals. Let us very quickly try to review some of the basic things that we have understood about periodic and aperiodic signals. Few important things are, we have realized that for discrete time signals, the frequency of such signals is defined as the ratio of continuous time signal frequency which we are sampling divided by the sampling frequency. So, the frequency of a discrete time signal is not absolute, but it is relative to the sampling frequency. That is, given a continuous time signal, if we sample it at different sampling frequencies, the frequency of resultant discrete time signal would be different. Right? Further, we have understood that if we are talking about a sinusoidal signal, a sine signal or a cos signal, in continuous time domain, then such signals are always periodic. Whereas, if we have a sinusoidal signal in discrete time domain, for the signal to be periodic, it is necessary that its frequency should be ratio of two integers. Right? These were the two fundamental things which we had learned while discussing aperiodic and periodic signals. And in the last online session, we had also done examples which talks about this fact. Let us continue further with examples on aperiodic and periodic signals, and let us start with a different situation where my given signal is basically composite of two signals, that is, it is addition of two signals. Let me propose the problem statement to you. The problem statement says that continuous time signals x1t and x2t are periodic with period t1 and t2 respectively. Signal x3t is defined as summation of x1t and x2t. Find the condition for x3t to be periodic and also find its fundamental period. As per the question, we are given with two continuous time signals x1t and x2t, and it is said that both the signals are periodic and their periods are t1 and t2 respectively. We are given with a third signal x3t which is equal to x1t plus x2t. It means that it is summation of two periodic signals. The question basically tries to ask that if we have two periodic signals and if we add these two periodic signals, will the resultant signal be periodic? And if it is periodic, is there any condition for it to be periodic? And if it is found to be periodic, what would be its fundamental period? Mind well, we are currently talking about signals that are continuous time signals. Let us try to address this question. What has been given to us is that x1t and x2t are periodic and their fundamental periods are t1 and t2 respectively. Now if x1t and x2t are periodic, by the definition of periodic signals, we can write x1t as x1t plus capital T1. We understand this from the definition of periodic signal, that a signal repeats itself after a regular interval of time, and that time interval is its period. Now the period of x1 is t1, so I can always write x1t is equal to x1t plus capital T1. Right? Further, I can write this as x1t plus mt1, where m is a positive integer. So what am I trying to show here is that the signal x1t would also have the same value at time instance t plus an integer multiple of its period. Let us try to understand this by looking at this figure. See, we have a simple sinusoidal signal. Here I have taken for an example. We understand that t1 is the fundamental period of this signal x1t. That is, the value of x1 at time t equal to 0 is same as the value of x1 at time t equal to t1. It means that the signal is repeating itself after time t1. Now, if the signal is repeating itself after time t1, then we can also say that the signal repeats itself after time 2t1 also. That is twice the period. Look at this. At time t equal to 0, the value of x1 is 0. At time t equal to t1, the value of x1 is 0. At time t equal to 2t1 also, the value of x1 is 0. It is natural to understand that if something is repeating at time at interval t1, it would also repeat at time interval 2t1, and similarly it would also repeat at time interval 3t1. That is, if the fundamental period of the signal is t1, then in general the signal would repeat itself at any time interval which is integer multiple of its period. So here mt1 basically indicates the integer multiple of p1. Mind well, what is the nature of m? M is a positive integer. That is, m is number like 2, 3, 4, 5 and so on. Right? It is basically an integer. So from the diagram itself, it becomes clear that if the signal repeats itself after t1, it is natural that the signal repeats itself after 2t1 also, 3t1 also, 4t1 also and so on. Right? Because t1 is its fundamental period. So there is nothing wrong if we write x1t as x1t plus capital T1 equal to x1t plus mt1. Similarly, for signal x2t, the period is t2, so I can also write x2t as x2 of t plus kt2, where again k is a positive integer. Now, if we are able to express t1 and t2 like this, then how x3 is given to us? x3 is basically given to us as summation of x1t plus x2t. Now from our above discussion, x1t can be written as x1t plus mt1. So instead of x1t, I can write as x1t plus mt1. Similarly, x2t can also be expressed as x2 of t plus kt2. So I can write x2t in this form also. I give this expression number 1. Further, if we are interested to find whether x3t is periodic or not, let us suppose that let x3t be periodic and let the period of x3t be capital T. What we are trying to do? We are trying to suppose here that x3t is periodic. And we would try to check that what is the condition for this to be true. So right now, let us suppose that x3t is periodic and its period is capital T. So as we can write for x1 and x2, same way by the definition of periodicity, I can write x3t as x3t plus capital T. Why? Because capital T is the period of x3. I give this expression number 2. Now, if I have x3t plus capital T, how can I write this in terms of x1 and x2? Then let us try to revisit this. How is x3t given? x3t is equal to x1t plus x2t. Now instead of t here, follow my cursor, instead of t here, I am substituting t plus capital T. So on RHS also, instead of t, I should write t plus capital T, and instead of t, I should write t plus capital T. That is, I can express x3t plus capital T as x1t plus capital T and x2t plus capital T. Right? I give this expression number 3. Now, with this expression 1, 2 and 3, we almost have created an homework to justify what the problem is asking. Now, we would like to substitute the expressions of 1 and 3 in our expression at number 2. Expression at number 2 is x3 of t plus capital T, which I can write it as x1t plus capital T plus x2t plus capital T. And on the RHS we have x3t, whose value I would like to take from this. That is, x3t can be written as x1t plus mt1 plus x2t plus kt2. So, by substituting 1 and 3 in 2, I would get x1t plus capital T plus x2t plus capital T, which I get from expression number 3, is equal to x1t plus mt1 plus x2t plus kt2, which I get from expression 1. Now, if we try to look at this expression carefully, on LHS as well as RHS, we have summation of two signals. x1 is there on LHS, x1 is there on RHS, x2 is there on LHS, x2 is there on RHS. Now, for this expression to be true, what is necessary? What is necessary is that this capital T, which is there with x1, should be equal to mt1. Similarly, this capital T, which is there with x2, should be equal to kt2. That is, for the above equation to be true, what is necessary is that capital T, which is there on LHS, should be equal to mt1, and this should also be equal to kt2. That is, the capital T should be equal to mt1 and it should also be equal to kt2. That is, understand this, that we have assumed that x3t is periodic and its period is capital T, and now we are getting the condition on capital T for this to be true. That is, we can write that x3t is periodic only if its period capital T is equal to mt1 and is equal to kt2. Right? So, from this expression, we can write that the ratio of T1 and T2 should be equal to K by M. I take T2 here, I take M here, so the ratio of T1 by T2 should be equal to K by M. We know what is K, K is an integer. We know what is M, M is also an integer. So T1 by T2 becomes basically the ratio of two integers. So what do we find? We find that the condition for x3t to be periodic is the period of x1, that is the ratio of period of x1, that is t1, and the ratio of period of x2, that is t2, should be ratio of two integers. So this becomes our condition for x3t to be periodic. Now, if x3t is periodic, what would be the period t? Then, from this expression, it becomes clear that T should be a common multiple of T1 and T2. Capital T should be common multiple of T1 and T2 because capital T is equal to MT1, which is also equal to KT2. So T should be such a value which is common multiple of T1 and T2. Thus, the period capital T can mathematically be represented as LCM of T1 and T2. So, with this, we get the condition for x3t, which is summation of x1t and x2t, to be periodic. And what is the condition? The condition is that the ratio of the period of x1 and the ratio of the period of x2, that is t1 upon t2, should be ratio of two integers. And if this is satisfied, then the period of x3 would be equal to LCM of T1 and T2. Let us try to understand this graphically. Let us say that we have two sinusoidal signals x1 and x2. Let x1t has a period of 2 seconds and let x2t has a period of 3 seconds. Right? So we have x1t which is periodic, which is having a period of 2 seconds. We have x2t which is also periodic, which is having a period of 3 seconds. And now let me add these 2 signals. If I add these 2 signals, the resultant signal x3t would look something like this. Right now, we are not more concerned about what would be the amplitude. I have not mentioned the amplitude here because we are right now concerned about the period and the frequency. So, the amplitude of the signals may not be as per the scale. However, the signals have been derived using a software of MATLAB. So, the signals x3t which is generated is basically summation of x1 and x2 which has been derived using the software tool of MATLAB. So, x3t would primarily look like this. Now, if we try to find what is the period of x3t, then understand that this is how the signal is varying, and we find that after this much time, after this much period, after this much time, the signal is repeating itself. So second cycle basically goes like this. If we try to look in MATLAB that what is the time period for this, then we would get this to be equal to 6, which is nothing but the LCM of 2 and 3. This is what we mean by that the time period of x3t should be a common multiple of t1 and t2. And the common multiple of t1 and t2, that is 2 and 3, is 6. So, we can understand better now that if t1 and t2 both, if the ratio of t1 and t2 is basically the ratio of 2 integers, then the resultant signal would be periodic, and its periodicity, that is its period, would be LCM of t1 and t2. If required, you can pause the video here, go through the discussion once again, and I am sure you would not find it difficult to understand. Right? If it is true, let us move on to the next slide. In context to the example that we have discussed, we have taken x1t and x2t to be continuous time signals. Now what if these signals are in discrete time? That is, we may have a signal x1n, we may have a signal x2n, and x3n is defined as summation of x1n and x2n. Then what about periodicity of x3n? Now, in case of discrete time signals, the concept is relatively simpler. Why? Because if x1n and x2n are periodic, then we know that its period would always be integer. Why? Because how do we define period of a discrete time signal? The period of a discrete time signal n is defined as number of samples in one cycle, or number of samples after which the signal repeats itself, and number of samples are always in integers. So, if x1n and x2n are periodic with period n1 and n2, it is bound that n1 and n2 would be integer, and hence their ratio would also be ratio of integers. Thus, if x1n and x2n are periodic, x3n would always be periodic because the ratio of n1 and n2 would always be ratio of 2 integers. The relation of period of x3n would be same as previous, that n would be equal to LCM of n1 and n2. So for discrete time signals, we have to simply that whether the constituent signals x1 and x2, whether these both signals are periodic or not. If they are periodic, x3n would always be periodic, and its period would be equal to LCM of 1 and n2. To reinforce this concept, let us try to take few examples based on this. Let us try to visit this example where we are supposed to identify whether the given signal is periodic, and if it is periodic, we are supposed to find its fundamental period. And the signal that is given to us is x of t is equal to cos pi by 3t plus sin pi by 4t. So my x of t is basically a continuous time signal, and it is sum of two sinusoidal signals. So as per the discussion made, I would like to look x of t as x1t plus x2t. And now we remember that for xt to be periodic, the ratio of the period of x1 and the period of x2, that is t1 and t2, should be ratio of two integers. So to check this, first of all, we would have to find what is the period of x1 and what is the period of x2. So let us try to find period of x1 and x2 by comparing it with standard sinusoidal signal that we have. So I can compare cos pi by 3t with cos 2 pi capital Ft. We have done such examples in previous session. I am sure you understand this. I am trying to compare this signal with cos 2 pi Ft. So I would get 2 pi capital Ft is equal to pi by 3t. This gives me frequency f to be equal to 1 by 6 Hz, that is the time period of x1, which I call it as t1, to be equal to 6 seconds. Same way, for x2t, the signal is sin pi by 4t, so I can compare it with sin 2 pi ft. So I would get 2 pi ft is equal to pi by 4t, which results into frequency equal to 1 by 8 Hz, that is your time period t2 of signal x2 to be equal to 8 seconds. Now, we understand that the condition for x3t to be periodic is that the ratio of t1 and t2 should be ratio of two integers. Here we try to find the ratio of t1 and t2. It would come out to be equal to 6 by 8 or 3 by 4, which is nothing but the ratio of two integers. Thus, we can say that x3t is periodic, because the ratio of t1 and t2 is ratio of two integers. And what would be the period of t? If we try to find the period of period of x of t, that is capital T, then capital T would be equal to LCM of t1 and t2, which would be equal to LCM of 6 and 8, which would come out to be equal to 24, because 24 is the smallest common multiple of 6 and 8. Right? So the period of x of t would be equal to 24. You can go through the example once again, take a pause, go through the example once again, try to understand it, and I am sure you will be able to get it through. If you are done with this, let us take one more example in this relation. Let us try to take x of t is equal to cos t plus sin root 2t. Again, the example falls in the same category where x of t is summation of two signals and x of t again is continuous time signal. So as per our approach in the previous example, we would try to label x of t as x1t plus x2t, and we would try to find the fundamental period of x1 and x2 by comparing it with the standard form. So if I compare cos t with 2 pi ft, so I would get 2 pi ft is equal to t, I would get f to be equal to 1 by 2 pi Hz and t1 to be equal to 2 pi seconds. This should not be a problem even though t1 is not a integer, it is a real number, but it should not be a problem because for continuous time signal the period t can be a real number. So if I say that time period t1 is 2 pi seconds, that is 2 into 3.14, it does not matter because this t can be a real number. So we find that the period of x1 is equal to 2 pi seconds. Similarly, if we try to find period of x2, I would compare 2 pi ft with root 2t. So f would come out to be equal to 1 by root 2 pi. That is, your time period T2 would be equal to root 2 into pi seconds. Right? Now, to find the condition of periodicity, let us try to take the ratio of T1 and T2. If we try to take the ratio of T1 and T2, this pi and pi would cancel. 2 divided by root 2 would basically give me root 2 by 1. We understand that this 1 is an integer, does not matter, but this root 2 is not an integer. So, the ratio of T1 and T2 is not the ratio of two integers, and hence x3t is not periodic. That is, x3t, or what we call here xt, as an aperiodic signal. This x3t is basically our xt. Right? So, our xt is an aperiodic signal. Right? I am sure, comparing question number 7 and question number 8, you would have understood the meaning of what we call the ratio of two integers. Right? Because both examples complements one another. In question number 7, we had a situation where the ratio was coming out to be ratio of integers, and hence the signal was periodic. In question number 8, this ratio is not coming out to be ratio of two integers, and hence the resultant signal is not periodic. Mind it well, individually cos t is periodic, individually sin root 2t is periodic, but when I add these two signals, the resultant signal is not periodic. So even though individual signals are periodic, when I add them, the resultant signal is not coming out to be periodic. Fine. Let us take one more example to complete our discussion on periodic and aperiodic signals. Let us try to take a new variety here. We have a discrete time signal x of n, which is equal to cos square pi by 8 n. What is new about this? The question is same. The question is to find periodicity, and if the signal is periodic, we are supposed to find the fundamental period. But what is new in this question? The new thing in this question is that now cos is not simple. What we are given with is the square of a signal. Now if we are given with square of a signal, that is cos square, then we cannot directly compare it with cos 2 pi of t. That is, we cannot directly compare 2 pi of t with, or 2 pi of n with pi by 8 n. Why? Because we have a square here. Our standard form is cos 2 pi f n, not cos square. So the new thing here is this square term. But we may easily deal with this. So we can deal with this using the standard trigonometric relation that cos square theta can be written as 1 plus cos 2 theta by 2. This is a standard trigonometric relation. 2 cos square theta is equal to 1 plus cos 2 theta, or we can write it as cos square theta is equal to 1 plus cos 2 theta by 2. What is the advantage? The advantage is that something which is in the power of 2 is now expressed in the unit power. That is, in a normal form that we are generally dealing with. So, I can write x of n, which is equal to cos square pi by 8 n, to be equal to, as per this formula, 1 plus cos 2 theta. So, I would multiply pi by 8 n with 2, so it would result in 2 pi by 4 n divided by 2. I can rearrange the terms and I can write it like this: 1 by 2, which is this, plus 1 by 2 cos pi by 4 n. Now if we try to see x of n is again summation of two things. However, the first term in x of n is 1 by 2, which is a constant. So what does this represent? This 1 by 2 represents what? This 1 by 2 basically represents a DC shift, and it does not have any relation with the frequency or periodicity of x of n. It is a constant, it is DC. And we understand that DC does not entertain the concept of frequency. That is, we don't have the
concept of frequency there. So x of n is 1 by 2 plus 1 by 2 cos pi by 4 n. This factor of 1 by 2 would bring a DC shift in the signal. Let us try to understand this through a diagram. Let us say that this is our standard cos signal, x of t is equal to cos t. I have represented here in continuous domain, but this does not affect whether we are in continuous domain or whether we are in discrete domain. So the same understanding also goes if I have instead of x of t, x of n. So let us say that we have x of t is equal to cos t. So this is a cosine signal. Now if I try to draw a signal x of t as 1 by 2 plus cos t. So what am I doing? To a signal cos t, I am trying to add a DC of 1 by 2. So what would happen? To each value of cos, I would have an addition of 1 by 2. So something at time t equal to 0 has value 1. Now I add 1 by 2 to 1. So the value at time t equal to 0 would become 1.5. Something which is 0, if I add 1 by 2 to it, so it would become 0.5. Something which is minus 1, if I add 0.5 to this, would become minus 0.5. So you can understand that by addition of a DC, whole signal is shifting upwards. So this is what we mean by a DC shift. As adding a phase to a signal moves the signal along x-axis, here adding a DC to a signal, it shifts the signal along y-axis. It would move the signal up or down depending upon what DC we are adding. Here the DC added is positive, so the signal is moving up. I am sure this makes the concept clear. So now x of n is equal to 1 by 2 plus 1 by 2 cos. We understand that if we add DC, the signal would just get shifted over y-axis. The frequency of the signal or the repetitiveness of the signal is not affected. The frequency of still both the signals are same, and it depends upon this cos signal only. So to find the periodicity of x of n, we would have to focus only on the second term, which is cos pi by 4 n. So comparing it with the standard form now, that is 2 pi fn, you will get 2 pi fn is equal to pi by 4 n, which would give me f to be equal to 1 by 8. For the discrete time sinusoidal signal, the signal is periodic only if its frequency is ratio of two integers, and here 1 by 8 basically gives us the ratio of integers. So we can say that x of n is periodic, and what would be the period of x of n? The period of x of n would be equal to capital N, which falls here in the denominator, which can be compared with this 8. So n would come out to be equal to 8. So again, x of n is periodic with period equal to n samples per cycle. With this elaborate discussions and number of examples that we have discussed on periodic and aperiodic signal, I am sure you would have been able to understood the periodic and aperiodic signal quite well. You can look for further examples in the textbooks that we are using, and it would always be interesting to solve new examples. So I encourage you to go through the textbooks and try to work out more examples, and we may discuss the doubts later on. Thank you for joining this session. Thank you.